Welcome to SAM Conversation, an online program of South Asia Monitor. It is my pleasure today to welcome three very dear guests. Colonel H.S. Shankar from the Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. He was also the OC Light Repair Workshop of my own regiment, 4 Horse, also known as Hodson's Horse. We have Vice Admiral Harsimran Singh Malhi, old salt from the Navy, old coursemate, and a very wily engineer who headed the Mazgaon docks, and while doing so, oversaw the production of the first stealth frigate in India, some destroyers, and most importantly, the Scorpion program. Pleasure to have you on board. And
thank you.
Last but certainly not least, Major General Probir Chakravarthy from the Regiment of Artillery, an expert on firepower, missiles, drones, and defense industry. It is, it's not. It's a pleasure to have old connections on the program, but that is not the reason that you're here. In the case of Colonel Shankar, he is heads the Alpha Design Technology Limited, ADTL, which has produced some very urgently required and useful acquisitions for the Army. And Vice Admiral Malhi will be we fortunate that he's with us to give us an idea of what is being done on the naval front. And then there's much more, all from Major General Probir Chakravarthy. I request Colonel Shankar sir, please start off from what ADTL has achieved on the Atmanirbhar front for urgent requirements of the Army.
Yeah. Thank you very much, firstly, for this great opportunity, not only to be with my friend and colleague from Hodson's Horse, Anil, and of course, 2 of the stalwarts, one from the Navy, and of course from Artillery, Major General Chakravarthy, and Admiral Saab. It's a very great pleasure to be with you all. So, in this question that was asked regarding the Atmanirbhar program and how industry is trying to cope up, it's a mixed fruit as it is in everything in India. It depends not only on the various incentives and facilities and all that which keep on being announced by the government of India, but also on the industry side, whether we take care of and we ensure that these things are put into action on the ground. And as you know, there is always a gap between the two. The intentions of the government, nobody can question, because at least I would say in the last about 5 years or so, there has been a positive indication and also an encouragement from the government at all stages. And lots of policy changes have been made, and hopefully most of them are for the good of the industry. And ultimately, this, whatever that is happening to the industry is hopefully it will also result in good to the customer, because he is the God and he is the person who gives the money and for whom we all work for. So the Indian industry now, of course, you can grade them as the startups now are coming in a big way. The medium scale industries and the small scale industries in one group, and of course the bigger industries which are already there, whether in the private sector or in the public sector. One of the good things is that there is a level playing ground in major portions of the acquisitions between private sector and public sectors. Other than a few programs where for DRDO's projects and all that, where they had already nominated the public sector as the single vendor sort of a program, or some of them, which is done for, let us say, procurements of aircrafts or the fighter aircrafts or helicopters and all that, and that is to be produced in India in only one place, and at which time they choose HAL. In all other aspects of procurement, it is a level playing ground. Competition is between public sector, private sector, medium scale industries, all in the same level, and the same terms of conditions for the payments and all that are there. Not that public sectors get a preferential payment conditions. No, it is the same conditions for everything. And initially there is an expression of interest which results in selection of various industries to whom the RFP will be given, and they're supposed to quote and also give the technical proposal, trials evaluations, and those who come through unscathed, their only proposals will be opened, and ultimately it will be decided purely on the basis of who becomes L1. And when somebody becomes L1, there is no further negotiations or any such thing on the prices. So that is the way it is going on very well, I would say. Then the second thing which has come in the last about 2 years, it is on this emergency procurements and all that, these programs. And there again, wherever the items were available in India or could be made available in India by the Indian industry, even in collaboration with a foreign partner, the priority has been given to the Indian industry. And we are one of those who have reaped some benefits out of it. For example, we got in the 31st of August, in 1 month, they finalized the whole program. They sent an RFP, they got a technical proposal from us, quickly it was evaluated, and those who were selected, they were asked to quote, and we quoted, and on the basis of which whoever became L1 were given an order within 1 month's time. There is a great procurement policy that was enunciated, and the items have to be supplied within 12 months period of time. And advances were given and all that very quickly dished out. And we had, talking about our own selves, we had a program for VHF radar for Indian Air Force, and that was about 220 crore rupees program, 6 numbers of it. And again, we and Bharat Electronics and Data Pattern and ECIL, we quoted for that and went in for a competitive bidding process, and we became L1. Difference between us and L2, that was Data Pattern, was hardly about 20 crore rupees. Bell was, of course, way beyond. There was about something around 300 crores. So we were declared as the winner, and straight away within about 5 weeks' time, the contract was signed. And we are well on the way now for making available that before 31st of August 2022. And that was very badly needed by the Indian Army. The second thing was on the loitering ammunitions. That is, we have a joint venture with Elbit, established in Bangalore, for manufacture of this, which we have already been doing for export purposes. Already we exported more than about 150 such loitering ammunitions called a Sky Striker through Elbit, and Elbit sent it to 2 or 3 other countries, of course, taking the Indian government's permission. So that we were already doing it, and Indian Army went in for again a bid, and ourselves and two other organizations took part. Again, we became L1, very narrowly we became L1 in fact. And on that basis, again, the order has been placed and we are on the way of doing it. In fact, we are trying to divert some of the export orders which we already had, which we are preparing ourselves to dispatch, that we are diverting to our own forces, because we are more important than anybody else, our armed forces. So that is the second program. That was about 120 crore rupees program. The third was a purely indigenous product, that is interrogator between friend and foe, IFF. that was a interrogator as it is, and that was to have been added to various types of radars, including the Indian radars, and also for the VHF radar, for which we got a separate order for 6 numbers, and this was for 61 numbers. And we had worked together with the DRDO laboratory CAPS, and on that basis we had done. It was qualified, approved. So on that basis they asked for that, and ourselves, Data Pattern and BEL were the only 3 competitors. Again, we became L1. In fact, the price difference between us and the number 2 was almost about 2.5 times, because we took it as the basic cost and add our portion of the profits and take into consideration certain risk factors, the finance costs and things like that. And we gave a very realistic price. We can see sometimes, in our own private sector industries also, we become sometimes very, let us say, too greedy. And in which case, we don't want to be greedy. We are, after all, it is our army, it is our own air force. And if we get our normal profit margin, that should suffice. There has to be certain value systems over there. And ours and Bharat Electronics price was more than 2 times. And of course, they are angry with us. R&D of that. So, yes, sir. Hello.
Sorry.
Okay, so on that basis, we are going ahead, and it's a good programs are going on, and we are quite well off as far as our own turnover is concerned, which is about 500 crore rupees. This year, we'll reach 700 crores easily by 31st of March. And we have, the more than anything else, a very happy position of having in our pocket about 6,000 crore rupees of order book position with us, all to be done in the 5+ years. And out of that, one of them is for 3 simulator centers, which Air Force has given an order of establishing, manning it, build, operate, maintain bases, run it for 20 years of time. And they are given 2 acres of land near the 3 airfields at Adampur, Bagdogra, and in Sarsawa, where we have built that. And we and Russians have worked together for making the MiG-29 upgrade simulator at Adampur, 2 Mi-17 V5 simulators, one at Sarsawa and the other one is Bagdogra. And all of them are getting into its phase of delivering to the customer the operation and the training of the simulators. And it will be for 20 years time we have to run. And the orders have been placed, contracts have been placed for 20 years. It has never happened. So in this happy condition, we are carrying on. Lot of R&D work we do. We have got 1,200 people. Out of that, 700 people are young engineers in the 21 to 29 age group, and 50% of them are ladies. Let me honestly tell you, there are no lady in this thing. They work much better than us men as the lady engineers. And we generally take from lower income group or lower middle class group, other than from service officers, children and all that, they always get the priority. Or the JCO's children, they get the priority in our company for any of the appointments. And so on that basis, there is a value system also, and we give tolerably good salaries, not to spoil them, but just sufficient for them to lead a good life and give a total good environment for them to work on. Modern test equipment, test facilities, production facilities, R&D facilities, and also exciting projects like we have. So they like to work here. And our people generally do not leave from us. We look after them probably, except for some of them who get married to in some other place or go away abroad or things like that. So it's a happy sort of a crowd.
May I, Colonel Shankar sir, it's a great pleasure. It's very heartening to hear all that we had from you on your production and the way your company is running. I'm eagerly waiting to come to Vice Admiral Harsimran Malhi, because just today I got the news about a 4th submarine being added to the fleet. Please take on from there, Harsimran.
Of course, thank you, Anil, for having me on this show. And it was really, really heartening to hear Colonel Shankar sir's achievements in this field. A soldier, an engineer, and an entrepreneur. I mean, it's an excellent combination. And I think this is what our country needs, actually. a person who knows about the armed forces, who knows the technical know-how, and then is able to deliver. I think it's really good. Uh, as you are aware, and in fact, it's well known that the Indian Navy has had this uh, penchant for indigenization for a very, very long time. And it was in the 60s that, the Indian shipbuilding program started. And the first Indian-built warship, the INS Nilgiri, was commissioned in 1973. So there has been this ecosystem which the Indian Navy has evolved over a period of time with the help of the nationalized the shipyard, PSU shipyards, which have been delivering on a very, very regular manner, the ships and submarines for the Indian Navy. And today, the fourth submarine has been delivered, which is actually the Scorpion class with the collaboration with the DCNS of France, now known as the Naval Group. And this indigenization thrust was actually with the help of first joint ventures and then licensed production, and then over a period of time, production within the country. I mean, it was a three-tiered sort of an approach. And this has resulted in setting up of a huge number of ancillaries within and outside Bombay. There are MSMEs and there are specialized, production shops which have been giving subsystems and auxiliaries to the shipyards. Now, on a little, the broader picture, unlike the European countries and America, which developed their military-industrial complex in the crucible of the Second World War, our country never really, got into armament business. We have been hobbled by, number one, the economy of scale. No private entrepreneur will be willing to put his money in unless he knows that there are volumes. Number two, there has been very little R&D. Again, there is no incentive to put anything into R&D. There has been a long gestation period between design and production. So that has resulted in time and cost overruns. And also, we have been hobbled by design handicaps. And we have not had a good support, auxiliary and ancillary support system. So all this resulted in a very, very weak defense production system within the country. Now, as Colonel Shankar sir has brought out, I think there has been a concerted push towards ensuring that the private sector as well as the public sector together is brought into, and give a thrust to indigenization.
Could you just throw a little light by, during your tenure as the CMD of Mazgaon, how many, say, vessels were produced for the Indian Navy then, vis-a-vis now, or what is the total? Just give us an idea of, what the turnout has been.
Yeah, in the 60s, nationalized 4 shipyards and then dished out orders to all these 4 shipyards over a period of time. And MDL, which was with the Scindias, was taken over in 1960. And since the time I left, MDL itself produced 85 warships of different sizes. So 85.
85 warships have been made by Mazgaon for Indian Navy.
And this ranged from seaward defense board, which are about 100 tons, right up to the 7,500 ton destroyers. So this is over a period of almost 55 years. So that means an average rate of about 3 per year. So, rather about 1 to 2 per year. But towards the later part of, rather the beginning of this century, I think the production took off. That was hobbled earlier by, the breakup of Soviet Union and, Russia, the various materials, etc., were not forthcoming. But in the last 20 years or so, great strides have been made. And one of the landmark projects was this collaboration with the French. The
French collaboration for the Scorpion.
For 6 submarines.
Six of them, yes.
Yeah. And also 6 destroyers, Project 15 Alpha, and follow-on 15 Bravo. So there have been a whole lot of projects which are given to Mazgaon Dock Limited. And now the thinking is that we need to have a private player in shipbuilding, scene. And L&T, Larsen & Toubro, is one of the major ones which is being considered. And you're aware of the strategic partnership model, where the new Project 75 India, which is a follow-on of the, the conventional submarines, that is the follow-on of Scorpion, that is going to be now MDL and L&T are going to compete for this 50,000 crore project, which will involve production of 6 submarines. So they will, strategic partnership model, that they will, these 2 entities will tie up with a foreign entity, which will actually give, the design, and which will give the material, and then slowly indigenize it in the country. So this is the new strategic partnership model. It has its drawbacks, but I think if you want the high tech to come in, if you want the latest materials to come in, this is the way to go. But licensed production is not really, in its true sense, indigenization. The indigenization is when you have your own design, your own tests and trials, and in a way, the design process becomes your IPR. And the Indian Navy has its own Directorate of Naval Design, which is designed right from the seaward defense boats and now to the aircraft carrier Vikrant, which is under construction in Cochin shipyard. So as far as design is concerned, we have come a long way. We started off in collaboration with the Brits, with the British, the Leander project, then with the Russians for the destroyers, and now we are on our own. And this aircraft carrier is actually the pinnacle of achievement of the Directorate of Naval Design. There is also Directorate of Naval Design, which looks at submarines. Now that is ongoing. A lot of work has been done, and it will be a red letter day when we are actually able to design our own submarine. There is another facet, which of course has not been talked about, and that is the SSBN, the nuclear submarine. You are aware that we were under a number of sanctions. There were a lot of restrictions placed on us in the 90s. We did not have any help from any of the foreign players, but all the same, our country has come out and delivered a nuclear submarine, which is the 3rd leg of the nuclear triad. And you will know that this is entirely indigenous, other than the power pack, which is also now, under construction here. So this was, I think, a big achievement, which has resulted in a number of, the offshoots in submarine design. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Anil.
Actually, sir, Admiral, sir, the facts that you gave is something stupendous. The number of submarines and the ships that have been built at various classes, and this really wonderful. And probably one may require some sort of a, let us say, a publicity for these aspects of it. Of course, within the confines of security and all that, it may be needed, because generally, they don't give in the, let's say, on the normal TV channels and all that. They take about, for example, to be frank with you, on this loitering munitions and all that, they give so much of publicity. But it is more important, these sort of things. It's easy to make a loitering ammunition actually. But making a ship, making a submarine, making a nuclear submarine, even thinking of doing it, a aircraft carrier, I think that needs real good stress from the people concerned.
Yes, and the major, issues which are confronted in this, in making a ship, is system integration. If you have to carry out your own system integration. I mean, it is so many systems and subsystems which have to be integrated together to produce the desired result. I mean, you are aware that behind the missile, I mean, there are array of subsystems which have to come together in a very synchronized fashion to ensure that there's a missile hit. So, and at the same time, some of these systems are coming from diverse sources. There have been times when we are integrating a Russian radar with a Israeli combat management system to a Indian-built missile. So I think system integration has now become one of the hallmarks of our naval technicians. So this is something we are very proud of. And secondly, of course, the design aspects.
That's fantastic.
I think, in the absence of what you call Anil, we can continue, because he can carry out editing of whatever is being done. And I will firstly cover the Army aspects, and goes without saying, undoubtedly, I think the Navy is way ahead of the other two services. I have, as a matter of, been actively involved in carrying out the modernization of the Indian Army. And I went to all these organizations, which Admiral very correctly pointed out, the Naval Design Bureau. Today we have the Army Design Bureau, which is nothing but an offshoot of the Naval Design Bureau, but it's nowhere near that. And definitely I also went to the Indian Air Force, so that we understand how exactly, we get on to a modern track. And I must put it that the Army by itself has been able to undertake a lot of modernization, and this has happened very recently. We are way behind, I would say, in comparison to the Air Force and the Navy. And certainly I would put Navy as number one, and number two, I would put the Indian Air Force, because both of them have been actively involved, and particularly after the Soviet Union broke up. Well, the Indian Army also got a wake-up call, I think, after the Soviet Union, broke up, because most of our equipment, I mean to say, was towards Russia. When you take the tanks, you take the 130mm gun, everything was aligned to that. And that was the first step, I think, really, where we thought of, the private industry, the public sector coming together and delivering results along with the DRDO. Well, we made excellent progress, I must say, firstly, in the field of missiles, first area where we, and we were involved even, I'd say, to take on certain projects which the Navy was doing. Since I was deeply associated with BrahMos, I remember we went in for Lara, which was an Israeli missile. And when we found that Lara was not functioning, we straight away put in that we must go in for BrahMos, even expressing more confidence than the Navy had on this project. Resulting in, I'm just something which with the Navy, which even the Navy was surprised when and since I was primarily involved in, getting the papers done, the military operations directorate, at least from the Army angle. The second sector, you see, where I think we really took the cake was the unmanned aerial vehicles. A field which the Air Force obviously was not interested, because it involved that you possibly, today the American Air Force has 30% of the fleet will be unmanned. Even today you're having underwater vehicles which are coming in, and the Chinese possibly have hit a US submarine in the South China Sea with an underwater vehicle. So the unmanned aerial vehicles and the surveillance systems, which Colonel Shankar has also been, we started getting in, and probably the Army was the first service to get in the Searcher Mark 1, which I was involved in. We got it from Israel and we started flying it. And today, I must say, the Heron is doing an excellent job. We are expecting now Colonel Shankar to give us a lot of these swarm mini UAVs, which should be doing a lovely task for which he has already got a contract. And the other areas where I'll put it now, let's come on to the hard issues. Well, as far as the tanks are concerned, you have today the Arjun Mark 1, which has got so many modifications in comparison to the original Arjun. The second order has been placed. And let me put it to you, the second tank, the DRDO has worked very hard. Now, when the DRDO works, it does, as I'm sure both of you very rightly know, a lot of heavy lifting is done by the private sector. Colonel Shankar knows it, how he does it for Bharat Electronics in many cases, and Admiral also knows it, how the Mazgaon docks and all, they rely on this. So we also realized that whatever is being done, let's say, I'm just putting it to you, we had the Bevel truck, which was there, and which is known as the Tatra. And we got Tatas in straight away, and we spoke to the Tatas, the Tata Motors, that if we can get an indigenous model going. And immediately when Tatra landed into some sort of trouble, we had the Tatas coming in. Let's take guns. I mean to say, we have, I think, done a fantastic job in this field. As far as the guns are concerned, we were able to, really carrying out a lot of indigenization. Let's take, we got today a Pinaka rocket, which I would put it right as Admiral said, from the design, I was involved with it, right up to today, going up to 60 kilometers, we have got the Pinaka rocket. Then we have got today various others, which I would put it, yes, they could be transfer of technology or joint ventures, like BrahMos is a joint venture. BrahMos is primarily a naval project. It would be incorrect on my part to say anything more, but definitely the Army has placed huge orders. And we have made it a land-to-land missile with a great degree of accuracy. We've got surveillance systems, the weapon locating radar. Let's take today, which has come in, Sati. Purely conceived by us, designed by us, and now at least it is fit for the lower hills. A great achievement. So when you look at it from this Atmanirbhar project, I mean, it's a very rightly the Prime Minister mentioned, 200 items have been given. Now, what has it resulted in? Now, the most important thing which I feel is Colonel Shankar used the word. Whenever I attended a meeting with the private sector was, I'm sure Admiral also must have heard it, and so also Anil, is a level playing field. And the absence of a level playing field. Anywhere I went, they said, sir, we don't have a level playing field. You're giving it to the OFB. Now let's look at the field in a different way. Today, the OFB has been corporate. That entire establishment has been now broken up, and you've got 7 public sector units. All have to deliver like Mazgaon Dock Limited. I'm just saying that because I always considered Mazgaon Dock, having visited there and having gone both during not one visit, but 3 visits during my long gunnery, staff college, and during my National Defense College. I mean, say one has been very fortunate, and well, before the Mazgaon Dock, we had to get up in the morning and play golf also with the Indian Navy. Admiral would know that. But believe me, one has to see how exactly it is to understand what a great organization it is to have something of the OFB following the MDL. And during the NDC, we were also taken luckily to Garden Reach. There was a strike in entire Calcutta, but Garden Reach was functioning. And today we have delivered, as Sir says, we have delivered today to the Vietnamese 4 high state patrol vessels, which, I was the DA to Vietnam. $100 million was supposed to be spent. It has been spent this year, thanks to the Indian Navy. And therefore, in the field, when you look at it, let's take. Today, as far as the rifle is concerned, you have an AK factory coming up in Uttar Pradesh. We are in the price negotiation. When we take artillery guns, a host of them, the best I will say is the LNT, the K9 Vajra. Outstanding gun, meant for the deserts, today now in high altitudes. What more do you want? Look at the private sector. They were supposed to deliver 100 pieces in 5 years. They've already completed their delivery, L&T. A new factory come up, and now today we are giving them 2 additional regiments. Unheard of. Today, let's take the, one of the latest guns. I'm still involved with equipment, and the army has a wide variety, whether it's missiles and all, and been very deeply in it. Let's say today you got the titanium, the ultralight howitzer. Believe me, a person like me, he looks very weak. Even in India, I felt so. And throughout, I can lift the gun. It's a titanium, and Admiral and Colonel Shankar are both technical people who understand how light an alloy, titanium alloy. You can lift the barrel with your right hand. And believe me, Mahindra is going to manufacture it. They've already started. Imagine Mahindra Defense today manufacturing the gun. And let's come on to what Colonel Shankar's field is, surveillance devices. I think the most important area for anybody, whether it's the Army, Navy, or the Air Force, is surveillance. And next is to undertake what he said, loitering ammunitions, or ammunitions which are precision and can go to a place. What we call today the multi-domain warfare and precision warfare and cyber and all these domains which have come in. We are no longer going to have a Balakot strike with aircrafts going and being piloted. I don't see it. Today we got the Excalibur ammunition, which again from Raytheon will be manufactured here. I have worked with it. It has been hitting at an accuracy of 5 meters. BrahMos missile, though has a CEP of 30 meters as per the general JSQR, is today hitting around 10 meters. Now just imagine 10 meters, 5 meters. That means you're almost hitting a bridge, almost hitting a bunker. Now these are the accuracies we are achieving. So what is the point in undertaking today if terrorists attack? You can attack. I still recollect when I was in an operational appointment in Northern Command and the Air Force came for targets, the first target which I gave them was GHQ Rawalpindi. Believe me or not. And well, the Air Force, the AOC&C Western Air Command very nicely smiled and said, I must say at least the Army is thinking of Air Force target. I said, no, sir, no, not an Air Force target. It's going to be an Army target. Today, the BrahMos is already on 600, I think with the hypersonic version coming in, which should not be difficult because after all, as Admiral has said, we have to rely on foreigners for something. With Russia coming in 1,300 kilometers. I've finished, sir. Thank you.
No. I want a clarification. Would it be right to say that the BrahMos has produced probably the fastest missile and that it is in the market also? I know it's been in demand, but whether we have actually marketed any of their products, please.
The first question is easy to answer. Is it the fastest? Well, it's very, very. I have studied all the missiles. I have found some of the Russian missiles to be faster. There are missiles which are faster. Let me be honest with you. And so we will not get into it. But BrahMos is a supersonic cruise missile, unlike the Tomahawk, which is a subsonic cruise missile. So it's very, very difficult to engage. But definitely to say it is the fastest missile would be making a wrong statement. There are missiles, and you see all these missiles have to be actually measured. Then only you can say this one is faster. I have measured BrahMos. I can't say about others. But there are faster missiles. I don't want to get into the details. We'll leave the stream. Now we'll come to the marketing. Well, as far as BrahMos going abroad, see, as far as the Army, Navy, and Air Force is concerned, they have never said that please don't market it. Right? But it has to be, the government has to take a decision. In this also, the Ministry of Defense is by and large, I think, agreeable. The Ministry of, somehow, you see the 2 ministries, that is the Ministry of External Affairs, has to take a call. And definitely, I think there's no harm. We must give it to countries like Vietnam, Indonesia. And if today Israel can give equipment to Jordan, if they can give it to Saudi Arabia, that's what I'm being told now. And if they can give to UAE, we don't see any reason why equipment must not be exported. It's so nice to hear Colonel Shankar say that loitering munitions he has already started exporting. I'm telling you, I had gone to Bharat Electronics Limited and there was a lot of dilly-dallying. They had made a simulator for our what you call miniature range. And then I gave them the ideas, and Mr. Prakash was there. He must have retired by now. So I told him, he said, sir, I've already got orders from Sri Lanka. I said, please get government sanction and go ahead. Today, the artillery is dying because, see, moment you start the export of an item, then the armed forces are compelled. So BrahMos, personally, I would say it's high time that India got into this field of export. Well, how much can the Indian Army, Indian Navy, and Indian Air Force order? There is a limit. Unless today Colonel Shankar gets export, after some time, this, what you call 5 years, if he is going to give the life to the employee, he had it. He's not a public sector company. He needs orders which are going into, I'll say, infinity. And for that, you have to open up, you have to export. And when you start exporting, you start competing. I hope I've answered your questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Major General Probir Chakravarthy. Now, let's, let's see where we stand. 20 years ago, to I know even 10 years ago, in a number of DEF expos that one attended, covered, and a number of foreign entrepreneurs that one met, their constant refrain used to be that India is a great destination for business, but it's a minefield, for procedures. Roughly, that's what almost everyone said. I remember we are not political people, all of us, but I do recall during the tenure of the UPA that the defense minister very often said, "Oh, it's a level. We've improved our procedures. It's a very level playing field now. It's a very level playing field now." Then came BJP in 2014, and after some time, one heard about the DRDO being given what amounted to a rap on the knuckles. That pull up your socks and get going. Where do we stand now? From all three of you, very briefly, if I may get that.
Anil, I have to go. There is somebody waiting.
Okay.
I'll just make a small statement.
Yes, please.
Before I leave, I fully second what General Chakravarthy just mentioned about export. We need to have a very viable export policy, number one, in order to have economy of scale, in order to build up some kind of a military industrial complex. Number two, we need not make everything here in the country. We should not waste our resources and finance, to start making high performance gas turbine engines for the Indian naval ships, or any other things which I'm sure Army and Air Force also have. I think we could even leapfrog to the next generation and concentrate on things like cyber security, etc., cyber warfare, and start innovating in those areas and start indigenizing in those areas which will be the future of warfare. And we have to really look at that. And number three, you are very, very right. We have the procedures, the defense, the procurement procedures have been central to our procurement, and the results have been totally incidental. Outcome is irrelevant as long as the procedures are met. It doesn't make sense. But I think from what I heard from Colonel Shankar sir just now, I think things are changing. And defense, in the indigenization of armament is, I think, now in almost mission mode, and all kinds of steps are being taken. And I think the proof of the pudding is in eating, as Colonel Shankar mentioned. Things are moving fast. So that's a very, very, I think, very encouraging, and it's a ray of hope. And I'm sure with this, we may one day have some kind of a military industrial complex to be proud of. So may I take leave, Anil? I'm so sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
very much, Vice Admiral Malhi. It was very
Thank you.
enlightening to have you on with us.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you so much. Thank you, Colonel Shankar sir. Thank you, General Chakravarthy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Great pleasure.
Thank you.
What you told was 100% correct.
Thank you, sir.
Colonel Shankar sir, briefly from your side,
Yeah.
although it was very, very heartening to hear you, and it was also very impressive to see the kind of product you've recently given us, the Sky Searcher.
So I just three points. One is very rightly the point raised by General Chakravarthy on exports. Actually, it is happening some by itself, some due to the planning process, which all companies we are now having it. Firstly, offsets, as you know, are termed as particularly the direct offsets or exports because the order comes from the country abroad, whoever gets the contract. And on that basis, most of us have benefited hell of a lot, particularly on the direct offsets. For example, we got for the upgradation of 1,000 numbers of T-72 tanks with thermal imager fire control systems, which we did it in our own factory here, establishing facilities, an order for almost about 500 crore rupees. And that was purely exported. We did it and exported back to Elbit, who did the PDI and all that by adding one or two items from them. Indian Army, we sent their team and then cleared it, and then it came back to India, of course, which we ourselves fitted it on the T-72 also. And so that was considered as offsets, very rightly so, in my opinion. So the direct offsets have helped the Indian industries because exports means you don't have to pay some of the duties. The basic customs duty you don't have to pay. So that is an advantage, and that incentive has been taken. In fact, when I talk about our turnover of 500 crore rupees last year, out of the 300 crore rupees was exports. And this year we'll be doing 700 crores. Out of that, believe me, what we have planned is 450 crore rupees is exports. Of course, out of that, about 250 are for offset purposes, but other 200 is for exports. The one that I talked about, Sky Striker and all that, as I told you, it is from our joint venture with Elbit. And this is 99% is exports. We have from that joint venture about 140 crore rupees is our turnover. So 90%, 95, 99% is exports. So this is a methodology because for export purposes, let us be honest about it. The people who have been selling here, they are experts in coming over here again and again. The same guy comes, he persists over there and goes over there, comes for one meeting, goes back over there, which we never used to do in Indian environment. So that is changing now, and exports are becoming this thing, particularly in the areas where, General Chakravarthy told and Admiral also told about Vietnam. That was done because of the, Exim Bank credit, which Government of India opened, which was $100 million he mentioned. That was totally utilized by L&T for making the, offshore petrol vessels, and that were exported to Vietnam. Now we have got another thing opened up, of course, that is on a satellite side, which we are quite strong in satellites also, which we are going to export over there and establish launching centers there for them to launch the jointly made satellites at Vietnam, all financed through the Exim line of credit, and that's all exports. So like that, so many, actually speaking, if you study that, there are various methodology which are fully legitimate and enshrined in the procedures and processes. And that's where I said industries themselves have got a role to play in making use of it in the correct way and to be after it, and it is possible. The second point, which very rightly raised by you, Anil, is on the procedures, processes, and all that. Yes, the aim, I presume, is for that DPP and DAP and all that, what they call now, is to streamline this and reduce it, but some cases it has increased. But there is a conscious effort of the Ministry of Defense and the DG acquisition, including the Secretary of Defense Production and Secretary Defense, take very, very almost about a monthly or twice a month seminars and all that they attended, conducted by FICCI or CII or ASSOCHAM, or SIDM and all that, in which they themselves take part and answer the queries wherever there is any shortcomings. And sometimes, of course, industries also play a part in not giving the fully qualified equipment for trials, which prolongs the trials duration. Sometimes Army, Navy, Air Force also wants one more trial, some more things they add on, that also prolongs. That is also there. Not necessarily always due to bureaucracy. We blame the bureaucracy, of course, but it is not always due to this. It is also due to the procedures in the Chuck knows very well how many times this gets struck up there itself within the uniformed classes itself. The things may not, it will take some time to move to the defense ministry and all that. And they, of course, they add on to their own multiplication factor of the time frames. So it is a combination. And again, one can be a little bit optimistic, in my opinion, in the situation as it exists. And we can do that. The example I can give for cutting down the processors and things like that is the Space Research Organization, where again, as I said, we are very active. Believe me, over there, when there is an expression of interest, they ask for, select the shortlist, give an RFP, then within another about 6 months, maximum period for placement of a contract or an order on a private sector organization is not more than 1 year, maximum 1.5 years. They clear that because the time-bound programs are there and they have got to take the decision, and they take quick decisions. So there are not too many agencies. And Chuck knows very well, sitting over there, there is EME over there, there is DGQA over there, and each customer has got 3-4 branches. So by the time you take all these things, that also adds to this thing. Whereas in an organization like homogeneous organization like ISRO, it is not there. So these are the things that are there. And this is what I wanted to put across my views. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Colonel Shankar, sir. Major General Probir Chakravarthy, very briefly, anything to add?
Well, I'll put it, I think Colonel Shankar sir and Admiral have covered everything. There are two organizations. One is the Atomic Energy Commission, and second is the Indian Space Research Organization, which Colonel Shankar has given. These are two organizations, but they are directly under the Prime Minister. So they have very few agencies. In my case, let me assure you that within the army itself, to get an equipment formalized, there are, I think I had to, it's one thing good which I did is I used my legs more than my car, because an ambassador car could rarely find a parking. And we used to walk from Sena Bhavan, South Block, DRDO, all the offices. Every person, there might be a major sitting on a file in MO Directorate. You're going to go and sit, have a cup of tea. He'll find a major general sitting and he will sign. I'm being very frank with you. This is the process, and this is the process of legging, if I may put it, which I heard yesterday, luckily one of the secretaries saying, some offices in the government of India have now become e-offices, no paper. And you can even, but it can't be done in the case of Ministry of Defense, where you are following the file on the computer. So, well, that can't be done in the case of MOD due to security reasons. So security adds to the time delay. And the next thing which I would like to say, which I would very humbly put it, we may say that we would like to make everything here, but believe me or not, the start point has to be from abroad. Like Elbit may provide you something, you cannot do away with this because you need some quantity, which I would like to say has to come from abroad. And then say you make one aircraft carrier, you make a few things, and then the numbers will be made. And that also will be got by the private sector only. If you tell Colonel Shankar to get you an NCROSS, if you tell him to get a LOROS, he will initially get it from Elbit. And then he'll say, I'll make it now later on in Bangalore. You cannot do the start itself, that you can't have Rafales, you can't. That would be a wrong way of looking, because after all, what Admiral said is that you can't today now get on to an engine. We don't make any engine in India. I want to be very frank with you. And there's no requirement of making an engine, because we are capable of getting an engine instead of wasting your time in making an engine. There's no requirement. Even China does not make an engine today. China does not make it. There's no requirement. You're getting people who make engines. It's like today, if I start stitching my own shirt and my blazer, then it'll take, and a tie, then I'll be spending most of my time in that only. So I have only that to say, that we have to have, I'll use the name, Chief of Defense Staff said, that we need a combination of Videshi, and the numbers must be made up by the Desis. That is, you have the foreign equipment to start the project, and then you get it. Whether it's for the light tank, whether it's for anything. I have finished, sir.
Thank you, Major General Chakravarthy. Thank you, Colonel Shankar, sir. I think we have we've covered a lot of ground, and what is most heartening now is to hear that the the forces, Indian Army, which is deployed against the Chinese right up till Arunachal Pradesh, has now been given some kind of equipment which they never had before. And I end this program by saying, may this tempo continue. Thank you, gentlemen. All the best.
Thank you very much, Anil. Thank you very much, General Chakravarthy Saab. Very, very nice to hear both of you. Thank you for everything. Admiral was also great.
Thank you, Colonel Shankar, sir. Thank you, Col Anil Bhat. Thank you very much.